1. Introduction. My name is Stacy. I am 41 years old. I work at a large magazine company in the city. I check articles and pictures all day. I enjoy my job very much, but sometimes I feel very tired. The office is always busy and full of fast energy. It is full of young people. They run quickly and talk loudly about many things. I often feel like they do not see me at all. I feel invisible, like a quiet shadow wearing a gray dress. I have worked here for many years, watching the world change around my desk. The office environment is very modern and moves fast. Phones ring constantly, and people rush to meetings and deadlines. I sit at my desk, which is near the back wall. I do my work carefully and slowly, focusing on details. I try to match the high energy of the younger staff, but it is difficult. This difference in age and pace makes me feel isolated. I often drink my coffee alone and watch the laughter and excitement of the younger employees. I think I am physically here, but I am not truly a part of this world anymore. 2 weeks ago, everything changed because we received a new boss for our department. His name is Frank. He is only 24 years old. This means he is almost 20 years younger than I am. He wears very nice, expensive business suits. He has a bright, confident smile that seems to fill the room. When I first saw him, I felt a strong sense of skepticism. I felt a little bit of annoyance, too. I thought, how can this young man be in charge of people who have worked here for decades? I was ready to be cold and distant towards him. I assumed he would be arrogant because of his youth and new power. But then he walked across the busy floor and stopped right at my desk. He paused the fast pace of the office just by standing there. He looked directly into my eyes. His expression was not proud. It was very kind and respectful. He smiled again, and this time the smile felt genuine and warm. He held out his hand to shake mine firmly. He spoke my name clearly. "I need your help, Stacy," he said. He spoke as if I was the most important person he needed to talk to that day. I was completely surprised by his immediate kindness. My heart beat faster when he showed me respect. I realized I had judged him too quickly, only because of the number of his years. 2. The late night. For 3 days, the office had a big problem. The printers stopped working completely. The deadline for the magazine was tomorrow morning. We needed hundreds of copies of the main article printed and ready to send. When the machines broke, we had to fix them and print everything again. This took hours and hours. Everyone went home at 6 o'clock in the evening, but I stayed. I am Stacy. I wanted the magazine to look perfect. Frank stayed too. We worked side by side, looking at the confusing machine parts. Frank did not yell or get frustrated. He stayed calm, even though he was the new boss facing a crisis. He focused only on finding the solution. The office became very quiet. It was dark outside, and the city lights shone through the windows. Inside, only the lights above our two desks were on. We worked hard for a long time. Frank walked away and came back quickly. He carried a cup of hot coffee just for me. "You work harder than anyone else," Frank said softly. He sat down on the edge of my desk. He looked tired now, but he was still handsome. We talked about the magazine articles first. Then the conversation changed. We started talking about our lives, hobbies, and goals. Frank listened carefully to all my ideas. He did not look at his watch or check his phone. He did not treat me like an old employee who just checks papers. He treated me like a smart person. He treated me like an equal partner in the work. He said I was a treasure to the company because of my attention to detail. The silence of the late night helped us talk easily. Usually, the office is loud and fast. Young people hurry everywhere. But now, it was just the two of us and the sound of the keyboard clicking. Frank valued my experience. He did not talk down to me because of my age. This feeling was new. For many years, I often felt invisible at the company, like a ghost in a gray dress. We finished the last document at 11 o'clock. The deadline was safe. We stood up. "Thank you for staying, Stacy," he said. He did not shake my hand this time. He just looked at me with those kind eyes. I felt happy and respected. I walked home that night feeling different. I did not feel like a ghost anymore. I felt seen. 3, the dinner. The next week, the office was very noisy with talking. People whispered all the time. They talked about Frank. They said he was too young to be the boss. They gossiped about his family and his money. I hated hearing their cruel words. They said he only got the job because of his father's money. I felt a strong need to protect him from the older employees who judged him. I knew he was working hard to learn everything. One evening, Frank came to my desk. He looked a little nervous. He said we finished a very big project and should celebrate. "I want to take you to dinner," he said. "It is just a business dinner, Stacy, to talk about work." I thought it was a professional meeting. I went home to change my clothes. I wanted to look nice. Frank met me outside the building. We walked to a small Italian restaurant called Luigi's. It had dark wood tables and soft candles everywhere. The smell of garlic and fresh bread filled the air. Frank pulled out my chair. He ordered a bottle of red wine. We talked about the magazine's future. He asked my opinion on 3 new ideas. I spoke confidently because he listened well. After 10 minutes, the conversation changed. Frank put his hands on the table and looked only at me. He did not look at his phone. He looked at my eyes, my face, and my lips. His stare was long and intense. I started to feel very warm. "Stacy," he said softly, "you are very beautiful tonight." I felt my face turn red. This was not business. My heart started beating fast. I knew I had to stop this. "Frank," I said, I am much older than you. I am old enough to be your aunt. People will talk. It is not professional." He did not agree. He looked serious. He shook his head slowly. "I do not care about the numbers," he said. "Age is just a number. It does not mean anything to me. I only want to think about us right here, right now." He reached across the table and put his warm hand over mine. I left my hand there. I looked into his eyes and saw no doubt. I knew this relationship was dangerous, but I felt happy for the first time in many years. The fear. My head was full of worry. This situation felt very dangerous. Frank was my boss, and he was much younger than me. If other people in the office found out about our dinner, it would be a huge scandal. I thought about my job. I thought about my future. I could lose my job. I could lose my pension, which was important money for my old age. Frank could also lose his good name and his position. This made me feel very scared. I knew I needed to stop this relationship immediately. The next morning, I went to work. I decided I must create distance between Frank and me. I needed to be cold. I needed to be professional. When he spoke to me, I only used short words. I tried hard not to look at his kind eyes or his confident smile. "Good morning, Stacy," he said when he walked past my desk. "Good morning, sir," I answered quickly. "Did you check the reports for the marketing team?" he asked me later. "Yes, sir." "They are on your desk now, sir," I replied. I tried to sound formal. I saw a look of pain on his face. It hurt me to treat him this way, but I felt I had no choice. My fear of losing everything was stronger than my emotional desire to be close to him. Later that day, I went to the photocopy machine. I was copying many important pages for a big meeting. Suddenly, Frank was standing right behind me. He was very close. I could feel the heat from his body. I could smell his cologne. It smelled fresh, like the ocean and expensive soap. My heart started to beat fast, like a drum inside my chest. I pretended I did not know he was there. I focused hard on the machine and the papers. I waited for the copies to finish. He leaned down close to my ear. "Why are you running away?" he whispered softly. His voice was low and deep, and it made my body feel weak. This question made me freeze completely. I closed my eyes for a moment. My body wanted to turn around immediately. I wanted to put my arms around him and hug him tightly. My emotions wanted Frank and his attention. But my logical mind screamed, "Stop! You are 41 years old. He is your boss. This is wrong. Think about your pension." The logical fear was loud. I opened my eyes and pulled the finished papers from the machine very quickly. I did not answer his question. I did not look at his face. I just moved away fast. I almost ran out of the area. I went straight to the women's bathroom. I locked the door behind me. I stood in front of the mirror. I breathed hard, trying to slow my heart down. My face was red from the tension. The battle was happening inside me. One side was the strong, logical fear of losing my safe life. The other side was the exciting, new feeling of emotional desire. Fear was winning the fight today, but I knew I could not keep this distance for much longer. 5. The rain. It was Friday night. The weather was very bad outside. A heavy rainstorm started suddenly, and the wind blew hard against the building. I went to the parking lot to drive home. I tried to start my car. I turned the key, but nothing happened. My car was broken. I felt worried because I was alone and the rain was too strong to walk anywhere. Frank came out of the building a few minutes later. He saw me standing next to my car, looking upset. "Your car is broken?" he asked quickly. I nodded my head. "Get in my car now, Stacy," he said firmly. "You cannot stay here in this terrible weather." I had no choice but to agree. The rain was too loud on the car roof as we drove slowly through the deep water on the street. Frank's apartment was closer than my house. He said I should wait there until the storm stopped and the streets were safe. We went inside. The apartment was very modern. It had big windows and simple, expensive furniture. It looked a little cold at first, but Frank quickly made it feel warm and welcoming. He turned on the soft lamps. He walked to a small music player and put on some slow, gentle jazz music. The sound filled the quiet room. We stood by a large window. We watched the heavy rain falling down the city streets. The sound of the jazz music was quiet and gentle. We did not speak much for many minutes. The silence was full of feeling. The air between us was heavy with expectation. It felt like the air just before something important happens. I tried to think about my job and my fear, but his presence next to me was too strong to ignore. Suddenly, Frank turned toward me. He took my face in his 2 hands. His hands were warm and strong against my cheeks. I looked into his eyes. All my worries disappeared. I forgot about my job. I forgot I was 41 years old. He leaned down and kissed me. It was a long, passionate kiss. It was deep and wonderful. I felt young again. I felt alive. We moved together into the next room. We spent the whole night together, wrapped closely in his arms. 6. A big mistake. I woke up very early the next morning. The room was quiet. I saw the sun coming through the long, thin curtains in the bedroom. I was still in Frank's apartment in his big bed. I looked over at him. He was sleeping deeply and peacefully. His face was relaxed and soft. In the bright light of the morning, he looked very young. He looked like a boy. Suddenly, a cold, sharp feeling hit my stomach. It was like a wave of fear and regret. I knew immediately that I had made a terrible error. This is wrong, I thought. This is a big mistake that will cause problems. I remembered all my worries from before. He is my boss. He is only 24 years old. He has his entire life in front of him. I am 41. I am a middle-aged woman with many years of work history to protect. This relationship was impossible. It was madness. I had to leave immediately. I could not stay and wait for him to wake up. I needed to escape the new reality of what we had done. If I faced him, I knew I would change my mind. I moved very slowly and quietly out of the bed. I found my clothes on the floor and put them on. My hands were shaking so much that it was difficult to button my shirt and zip my dress. I looked around the room one last time. Everything in his apartment was modern and expensive. It felt very far away from my simple life. It was not my world. I walked into the kitchen. I needed to make the break clean and fast. I found a small piece of paper and a black pen near the telephone. I sat down at the table, but I could not think clearly. I wanted to write a long letter to explain my fear, but the words would not come. I felt too much pain and shame. I kept the note very short and cold. I wrote 3 sentences. The note said, "Frank, this was a mistake. I am very sorry. Please forget everything about last night." I left the paper on the counter next to his coffee machine where he would see it when he woke up. I quickly grabbed my bag and walked to the front door. I stopped for a moment, wanting to run back to the bedroom and hug him, but I forced myself to keep walking. I closed the door softly behind me. I quickly called a taxi on my phone. When the taxi arrived, I got into the back seat and told the driver my address. As the car drove away from Frank's tall building, I could not stop the tears. I put my face in my hands and cried very hard. I felt terrible, like I was breaking my own heart into pieces. But I told myself that I was doing the right thing. I was saving him from a scandal. I was saving him from me. It was the only way to fix my big mistake. 7, the talk. Monday morning came quickly. I tried to hide at my desk. I looked down at my computer screen. I hoped Frank would not see me. I wanted to be invisible again, like a ghost in the gray office. But then the phone rang. It was Frank's assistant. "Frank wants to see you in his office right now," she said simply. My heart started to beat very fast. I felt sick. I walked slowly to his door. Frank was standing up. He looked serious. He closed the door after I entered the room. The office became completely quiet. He held the small note in his hand. It was the note I wrote early on Sunday morning. It said our night was a mistake. He did not look angry at all. He looked very determined, like he had made a decision. "Do you really believe this, Stacy?" he asked. His voice was quiet but strong. "Was last night truly a mistake for you?" I felt nervous standing there. I felt I had to explain everything. "Frank, I am 41 years old," I insisted. "I am much older than you. This is too much risk. You need a young girlfriend. You need someone who has many years ahead of her." He shook his head slowly. He walked around his big desk. He came close to me and took both of my hands in his. His hands were warm and firm. They felt safe and real. "Stacy, listen to me carefully," he said. "You are my future. You are the woman I want. You are smart, you are very kind, and you are sexy." I looked away from his gaze. It was difficult to accept these compliments. I felt like crying. "Life is about taking chances," Frank continued, holding my hands tighter. "Growth comes from taking a risk. We cannot let other people's fear or opinions stop us. We must not let fear make our choices for us today." He looked straight into my eyes. His look was deep and honest. He was looking past my age and past my worries. I thought deeply about his words. I thought about the fear that made me run away from his apartment. It was not the office rules that stopped me. It was not the potential gossip. I suddenly understood the truth clearly. I was the one who was judging us the hardest. I was the one telling myself that I was too old for this kind of happiness. Frank did not see a number. He only saw me. This realization hit me very hard. I had judged myself before anyone else could. I finally saw that he was completely right. I needed to stop being afraid of my own desire for him. 8. Being happy. I took a very deep breath. I looked at Frank, who was standing close to me. He was a wonderful man. He had just told me I was his future. I finally understood something important. Age is only a number. It is just a limit that I put in my own mind. I had wasted many years. I spent those years being afraid. I was afraid of what other people might think about me, but their thoughts did not matter. My happiness mattered more. Today, I made a clear choice. I chose to be happy with Frank. I squeezed his hands tightly. I looked into his determined eyes. "It was not a mistake," I said softly. My voice was a whisper, but it sounded strong in the quiet office. Frank smiled immediately. His smile was big and warm. The whole room seemed brighter because of his happiness. He moved closer to me and kissed my forehead. It was a gentle kiss, full of respect and love. We needed to talk about the future. We both worked at the magazine company. We knew that our relationship could cause trouble for our jobs. We agreed on a plan. We must be very professional inside the office. Frank was the boss, and I was his employee. We would not touch or talk about personal things when other people were near. This was important for our careers. But outside the office, we were free. Outside the office walls, we were a couple. We were together. This decision felt good and true. It was a promise of a new life. I felt strong and brave. I was not hiding anymore. I was not running away from love. I was facing it. Frank walked me to the door of his office. He opened it for me. I looked at him one last time before leaving. He gave me a small, secret smile. I returned the smile. I walked back to my desk. The office was busy, but I did not feel invisible now. I felt seen and loved. I sat down at my computer. I looked at the screen, but I was thinking about Frank. I thought about how much my life had changed in just a few weeks. I was Stacy. I was 41 years old. I had thought my life was set in stone. I thought there would be no more big surprises. I thought love was only for the young people in the office. But I was wrong. I learned a great lesson. It is never too late to find love. It is never too late to take a risk. It is never too late to choose joy. Sometimes, the best love comes when you stop listening to your fears and start listening to your heart. I had found happiness with a man who was 19 years younger than me, and that was perfectly fine. I was finally happy.